Recording. Okay, I'd like to welcome Tony here to the meeting. He's giving the talk tonight. And I think we all know what Theosophy is all about, so I won't say too much about that. And I can still remember Tony's other talks, the theosophical aspects of Frankenstein one night, and being an accidental psychic another time. But Tony always gives interesting talks, so this will be another in that long line of interesting talks. So over to you, Tony.
Hey.
Well, thank you, Danny, for your confidence. Unfortunately, I do lack that confidence tonight. My talk, I feel, is going to be a lot shorter than usual. I had extreme difficulty on this topic. I guess I basically picked something which I felt was going to be an easy one to write, and then when I got down to writing it, I found it was very complicated and my poor little brain couldn't handle it. And I did actually set it up as a PowerPoint presentation, but as you can see, I haven't got any of the PowerPoint presentation gear here. I've only got my little collection of pages here, so you'll have to forgive. I do have, I guess my original idea was to show a vortex of some description, as I've got there on the front cover, and to show the different things, some of the different things around it, including, I forget what they're called. That's one of the, not sprites, the
Salamanders.
Shells, the fire salamanders, yeah, the fire salamanders. That's the Cottingle fairies. Over here, a gnome and an angel up the top there, I think with a few fairies flying around it. And over here is, I guess, a representation of the universal man, if you like to call him that, more of a...
an archetype?
Yeah, I guess. And so the idea was that all these things are spinning around together as a part of the whole, and it didn't quite turn out exactly the way I thought, because when I originally had the idea, unlike some of the others, like Danny mentioned with regards to, say, the talk on Frankenstein, which was the science of Frankenstein.
Science of Frankenstein, yeah.
In which I basically learnt of the amazing science that actually did exist at the time, that the book, the modern Prometheus, which is also called Frankenstein, was about that science that was around at the time, though it didn't mention it in any way in the novel. It was about what was happening at the time with that particular science, and was relatively easy to research. When I first Googled it, it came up with something like 1,000 responses, and I thought I'd picked something that was fairly difficult to find. And again, with this one, I thought, well, here's going to be something really easy. I Googled it, and there were probably about 20 responses. And I thought, okay. And some of them were quite strange and bizarre, and some of them weren't so bad. But basically, I thought what I'd start with was a definition of meanings, just so I could get around my head what I was trying to look for. And I guess, reality. Now, according to the Oxford University 1978 edition, the Oxford Handy Dictionary, reality means being real, resemblance to original, real existence, what is real or existent or underlies appearances. Now, according to what's called Wiktionary on the internet, reality means 1, the state of being actual or real. The reality of the crash scene on TV dawned on him only when he saw the victim was no actor but his friend, as an example. 2, a real entity, even or other event or other fact, and the ultimate reality of life is its ends in death. Well, that's what it says. The entirety of all that is real. And 4, an individual observer's own subjective perception of that which is real. And that one in particular is one that I focused on because it seems to ring true to me, that it is an individual's observer's own subjective perception of what reality is that is important, because perceptions are different for every person, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Now, with regards to vortexes or vortices, the descriptions given of those were a whirlpool, whirlwind, whirling motion or mass, figuratively, thing viewed as swallowing those who approach it, the vortex of society, for example. That was from the Oxford Dictionary again. The other one from Wiktionary was vortexes, a whirlwind, whirlpool or similar moving matter in the form of a spiral or column, and figuratively anything that involves constant violent or chaotic activity around some centre, and figuratively anything which inevitably draws surrounding things into its current. So I don't know if I actually had anything at this stage as to what I wanted to make it. I think when I first looked at the idea, it was to say, well, we do have this spiralling vortex of complex issues occurring around us at all times, things that were flying around no matter what they were, whether it was the things that are happening in your life, or the physical or the metaphysical things that are occurring around you. But in any event, I kept on trying to come back and try to work it out, but I had a lot of trouble, as I said. So, back to the vortex of reality, or was that the reality vortex? Now, I had an image of Robin Williams, the actor and comedian, not Robin Williams, the singer, but the comedian and actor Robin Williams from Mork and Mindy. Actually got a photograph of him here with Mindy there, in their heyday as Mork and Mindy back in 1979.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
And basically the reason that I looked at that was because I remember that I used to have an LP record that Robin Williams penned and in fact acted in back in 1979, which he called Reality, What a Concept. And I don't particularly recall much about the album, as it had disappeared from my possession only after a month or so after I bought it. Now the title perhaps better captures my awe of the topic tonight that I'm going to try to talk about. Now at the outset, let me point out that reality is a rather subjective experience, as I mentioned earlier. That is to say that each of us has a unique perspective of reality. My brother, 1 year and 5 days my junior, for example, is colourblind, mostly in the red-green area, and so his take on the beauty of colours is different to mine, and if nothing else, his view of reality is skewed differently to mine because of his different perception of colour to me. So basically then I thought, well, life's a journey, okay, and you've got a nice little photograph of another little, what do you call it?
Vortices.
Whirlpool, whatever, there. And
Tornado.
yeah, only this one's a water one. Yeah, water spout. And reality is basically a myriad of things, all happening at once. A whirlwind of concepts, thoughts, ideas, the physical and the non-physical, all spinning wildly, vibrating at a resonance that makes sense to our primitive brains. Our perceptions of the world, that's a good idea, of the world, and thus our grasp on reality, are formulated from concepts that have been impressed upon us by the various systems of indoctrination that we've taken part in, whether that be the society within which we are born into, wherein schooling commences at an early age to formalise the perpetuation of the status quo by teaching us all the same things, forcing acceptance of age-agreed principles of reality, denying the seemingly nonsensical. And that's when I thought, well, the Hitler Youth, perhaps, are a shining example of such, of the importance of indoctrination into society. It ensured total obedience, and in the end, an almost endless supply of cannon fodder for the end days of World War II. So in effect, reality can be engineered and tweaked, depending on acceptance by the majority. If the laws of gravity were to fail us tomorrow, for example, imagine the chaos that would rain down upon us. Imagine also how this would corrupt our concept of reality. So then I try to further look at the vortex of socialisation, and that comes from an internet source which I've got no idea what TTEYMUR meant, but the rest of it's there for anyone later on if they want to look at it. It refers to a special category of people only partially existing in reality. They have their own world, a sacred place, a place which is rarely seen or felt by someone else. It looks like a vortex of different thoughts, emotions, dreams, feelings, and actions all mixed up together. When a child is born, he or she is slowly being brought up in the real world that his parents or carers know of. Now, a man or woman slowly builds up his or her own vortex of reality. It has no shape or meaning or form. Now, the vortex to some is a magical place that you can develop desires and ideas in the non-physical part of you. In vibrational reality, everything that you desire already exists. The desires have already manifested vibrationally and are waiting for you in your vortex. And that was something that I think you spoke to me about before the meeting, Brendan, where reality
is based on our perception, our emotions.
Exactly. But in any event, I kind of got very cockeyed then, and with that whole idea, and just seemed to
I call it entropy.
Pardon?
Entropy.
Exactly. And I then thought, well, what I'm really trying to say is that reality equals consciousness, and that consciousness equals evolution. And that, particularly in the theosophical sense, was what I wanted to actually talk about more than anything else. Where it actually came into the other part, I don't know, but I was trying to bridge that gap, and I never really quite got there when I was going through it. But I had some really clever drawings from the internet on 4 different aspects of evolution. 3 of them are more to do with the science type, and 1 is the more spiritual evolution. And I thought I might just get a bit closer here so you could see it in any event. The first one is the more traditional one. I'll just keep your finger in the way here. This one here, and you see it's a progression from the more ape-like creature, and they've got a little spaceman on the end. But I'll explain that later. And then they've got a comedic one here where it starts off, you know, like an ape type thing, back to the Homo erectus and whatever, and then to the slobby, obese fellow with the soda drink there.
Mr. Cameron can't see it.
I'll show that in a moment. And the third one is a progression from, you know, like a salamander or something through to, you know, other life forms that drag themselves out of the water through to man, and then finally we become food for the aliens, which is not a bad thought. And then finally, of course, that's the more spiritual evolution that I wanted to talk about. So the little spaceman at the end, the obese man there, and the human being eaten there by the alien.
Yeah, so explain to him, like point them out, Mr. Camera.
The average, the kind of more accepted form of development of man, along the ape-like characters all the way through to the spaceman at the end there, or this one here, which starts off with the ape man, all the way up through to the Cro-Mag, and through to the obese slob there. And then, of course, this one here with the fellow being eaten by the alien at the end, which may be the way we're going to go, and who knows. But I thought they were quite clever, those ones. So the evolution of science, using again the kind of way that traditional Darwinian science suggests that man has gone from the ape-like creature through to the spaceman. I'll just say momentarily that so the evolution of mankind looks roughly like that displayed above. Now, it's perhaps somewhat hopeful that mankind will evolve into nomadic space travellers, exploring the far reaches of the known universe to perhaps find or see new life on new worlds. We tend to think of evolution as having reached its peak now, that there is no longer any need for the human being to evolve any further physically. However, prolonged space travel may help to speed up evolutionary change, making our bodies less fatigue resistant as we become more used to weightlessness of space and the ever-present danger of radiation levels. Maybe we should study the effects of daily exposure to radiation of space. Perhaps we will evolve to look more like the supposed aliens called the Greys, with large eyes, bulbous heads, long narrow necks, very thin waif-like bodies, and worse, our genitalia may retreat to the interior of our bodies, making us look very much like the aliens that are reported to constantly invade our planet, taking samples and probing us anally. Maybe, just maybe, the aliens are us. So what about theosophical evolution? Well, according to Theosophy and the Zeitgeist, on the Australian Theosophical website, theosophical evolution, however, has some distinctive characteristics. It plays a central role in the genesis of the cosmos and of humanity, the birth and history of the universe, our evolutionary processes. Theosophical evolution involves not merely causes but also purposes. It is teleological or goal-orientated, guided by an intelligent principle within the evolving universe rather than by unconscious responses to external pressures. In addition to the physical evolution of form, that is the subject of scientific study, theosophical evolution is seen as operating within the intellectual and spiritual aspects of our nature, the mind by which we grasp the world and the awareness of ourselves and of ultimate reality. This distinctive theosophical concern for evolution marks the movement as both a revival of ancient ways of looking at the universe and a contemporary expression of the spirit of our time. So that, again, that's from the Australian Theosophical site. Something that isn't from theosophical sources, but I found interesting nonetheless, was something called the Divine Plan, a little bit similar to ours. It's from a site called the 2012 scenario.com, Spiritual Essays of the Divine Plan for Life is Spiritual Evolution. And there are quite a few quotes here that I thought were worth mentioning. And having awakened to the special nature of these times, many people will ask, what is the point of life? The beginning is the divine plan for life. And that plan can be summarised in two words: spiritual evolution. We move from God to God in quest of conscious awareness of our identity as God. We do that so that God may meet God in a moment of our enlightenment. All life is a continuous round of experiences that we set in place to further our spiritual evolution. Life everywhere in the universe is continually evolving. It is a natural condition that forever impels you forward. The impact of the plan extends to every aspect of our lives. Whatever you are involved in, including your family and friends, the object is to apply yourself to situations in such a way that it will further your spiritual evolution. But life is not only purposeful, it is also expansive. All our lives lead you ever onwards in your evolutionary search for upliftment. It was the desire to progress that led us to descend into duality in the first place. So that makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah, it's all pretty much the same as philosophical thought. The next was the upliftment in your spiritual evolution is the whole purpose and outcome of your time in duality. In terms of planning our next incarnation, we are never made to do something that, and our journey into duality is no exception. The Creator did not force you in the cycle of duality, as you eagerly volunteered, knowing you would one day return to your home in the higher dimensions. That kind of all makes sense, I think. In our long journey into duality, we played both light and dark roles to enhance our learning. And this is something that, when I think of some of the darker characters in history, it tends to make me think that maybe they weren't as dark or as evil as we were led to believe, but they actually played a part so that the world, or so that the incarnations could experience those horrible things, whatever. So even someone as perhaps as dark as Hitler, or Idi Amin, or any of the Pol Pot, or any of those fellas, may have simply been playing a role that was asked of them, which is I guess a difficult thing to get your head around at times. But
The divine plan.
Or yeah, it's about a plan.
If you look at it, no, the last section is good or evil.
Well, that's right.
Could have called it.
That's right, and they're saying dark and light, and each of us has had experiences of the dark and light, because that is the reason you entered this cycle. Experience means progress, and in your pathway back to the light that knows no equal. So eventually we will transcend the human condition and go on to greater destinies. It must not be forgotten that we are all potential gods in the making. Our lives are infinite. Now, human beings now will eventually assume roles that are at present beyond our imagining. And yeah, obviously that makes sense, because how do we know what even the next level is? You know, from here, we have a clue. Certainly some people can glimpse it.
Of Rumi's where he talks about I died as a mineral, became a plant, etc. And he then it sort of ends with that he will become what no man e'er can conceive. So whatever is beyond human is beyond anything we can comprehend.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, obviously, I was saying to Brendan before the meeting started, for example, that we were talking about how the soul gets its message through to the physical being down here, and how he may be shouting, "Don't turn left! Don't turn left, for God's sake!" And you turn left and you crash. Had you turned right, you would have missed it and you would have been safe.
You've been
But
watching
you
too much Doctor Who.
That's right.
There's a Doctor Who episode.
I did too, that's right. But you didn't listen to your soul, and this is what happens to you. And of course there's all these different filters, because there's all these different levels of consciousness, etc., that you have to pass through to be able to get that message. And unfortunately, because we are this thick matter with thick brains, the chances are we are going to miss the messages sent to us by our souls.
But one can extrapolate the hypothesize about what that truth is, like through all that we know. Like okay, for example, we're splitting down like matter, like with atom smashers, like to find out the particles and that quantifying the reality of our corporeal self.
Are you saying we should smash up each other so we can...
No, we can have we can, as things evolve more, we can get more to that truth to find out what that reality is by looking at the subatomic level. And in cosmology they do it all the time, and if we look for the what makes up the 90% of the universe, what makes up dark matter, we find that all the time. So that's finding reality. If God was dark matter,
I guess the answer is we don't know.
oh, but we can hypothesize in
Well, yeah, but that's always a negative hypothesis anyway, isn't it? So
Things get stranger the more you go down to the subatomic level. Things get stranger. I mean, when you get down to freezing temperature, way down, water goes uphill, and you look and the thing can be a particle and a wave at the same time. You get stranger and stranger, and so we can't learn much from going down to subatomic level, I don't think.
I think one of the things we have learned, science is once you get to that point, all's vibration, therefore nothing is real. It's all motion.
Illusion.
And it's all illusion. I remember seeing a program where that's what they said, everything is illusion. And then he said, and the Buddhists told us that 2,500 years ago, it's all maya, it's all illusion.
and of course when you look at the subatomic level or whatever, I mean you're looking down at miniature universes or miniature solar systems, whatever, that you know, look very much the same as above. So it's very much like the old "as above, so below" type of concept of the alchemy. You know, ad infinitum. I mean, how many times is it going to happen?
But that's probably like, I feel like if you can encapsulate like reality, like everything, into one thing, like if say for example someone can encapsulate like okay, say for example, if we go to another planet or another like galaxy, like there's that concept of distance, but our thought is more important than that distance. Like the whole thing of we've been brought up to believe there's a distance, like a hidden dimension, like dimensions in things. Like there's a classic Star Trek episode where they like push the ship on the power of that thought to push the ship. Like that's what I was thinking. Like they can spend thousands of dollars, billions of dollars on space technology, where they should concentrate on like our mental telepathy to span those distances with our thoughts. So
in fact, in some science fictions they did.
yeah,
Look at Dune. I think they actually used a method of propulsion via thought, and that was the bad guys. If you remember, they had that big, I forget the name, what they were called, but remember that big huge thing that the people, it looked like a whale, and that thing was the thing that was able to propel the vehicle through interstellar space at mere thought. Remember that creature? No?
I can't vaguely remember, do you?
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's what I was always thinking of what reality is. Like if we can find like a truth in that reality, like we all come with different concepts of that truth, but if there was a higher being or like a more intelligent being, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy with that big machine come out with the answers to the universe.
What was the other thing? The reality drive? No, they had some kind of drive there as well.
Yeah,
improbability.
yeah,
drive.
improbability.
Yeah.
But this is like the machine to work out the answer to the universe, like far more intelligent than us. Found out the answer.
Well, if we've
The answer was 42.
Well, if
Yeah.
we've got down to discussion already, you don't mind if we discuss as we go
But
on.
have we
The
haven't
terms already
completed it yet.
been mentioned, and we mention it, and we look like we understand it. Maya. The world is illusion. Okay, what do you exactly mean by that? And prove it. How can we prove that the world is illusion?
I think the concept, both from the science and spiritual point of view, is that it's all illusion because it's constantly changing. But one of my little things is that I try to wrap my head around. Okay, they're telling us that this chair is all vibration. What holds it in the pattern of the chair?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's to do with consciousness, to
Yeah,
do
it's
with mind.
just your perception.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that comes back to this, what is reality? We create the reality by somehow creating the holding the energy into the forms.
And doesn't that then bring you back to the concept of the Matrix, where the people they went and saw to try to figure out how to work their way around the Matrix had a way of manipulating everything because they could see the vibrational aspect of everything. And because of that, they were able to bend spoons and whatever else. Remember the little boy who bent the spoon thing in the show?
There is no spoon.
There is no spoon, that's why he was able to bend it. And the same with everything they're able to do. They're able to do it because they had the ability to comprehend that. Now I think I comprehend it, but I've never been able to bend a spoon.
Just saying, there is no spoon.
Snap. Yeah. But anyway, so I guess one of the next points was knowing your present life is one of many that will continue to ad infinitum. You will realise that it is all for your experience as you grow into consciousness. It will gradually expand so that eventually it could embrace a whole planet and way into your future. Some of you may choose to experience being a planetary logos, for example. Now everything that exists is moving back to the source. Now to emerge again with the same source from which we came is the goal of everything that lives. Because this is our common destiny, we join hands and help each other. Do we? Evolution is quite natural, and the desire to do so remains with you forever. There isn't a life form that doesn't feel that desire to evolve. You, like every other soul, may have, I don't know what that says, innate urge to rise up higher and higher, and not even the lowest of the low completely lose it. There's a typo at the end there. The purpose of reincarnation is to promote our spiritual evolution. The purpose of living many lives is to follow an overall plan that leads to your spiritual evolution. It is the only way to advance and leave the cycle of rebirth behind. Our lives have often seen us suffer. It is through such experiences that you grow spiritually. Now, none of these experiences is likely random. All are planned. Your existence is not some freak accident, but of a careful design intended to give you every opportunity to move off the wheel of rebirth. You have most likely had hundreds of lives in all manner of roles and situations. These have been carefully planned to give you suitable experiences that will advance your evolution. There is no experience that is truly a random event, and certainly each one is an important step on your path. Evolution is independent of all situations and beliefs, even if we choose to remain on the same dimension rather than to ascend, we still progress. That's good to know. And I do believe that there are those who come back as ascended masters and the like, and they choose to be here to help others. Not that I've ever met any, but I believe I've met a few people who are very close to or very far advanced on the path, but as to whether they are ascended masters or not. No matter who you are or how you view your life or what your beliefs are, you still will evolve through the experiences each life provides you. You may go in all directions at various times, but the fact is that the net result will see you progress towards the light. That's better than progressing towards the dark. Now, no one is hurried on his or her journey. As life is infinite, you have as much time as you need to learn the many things that you have to learn. And we choose our life plan before birth and then follow it as closely as we can during our lives. As I said before, this can be affected by our own inability to hear ourselves telling us what to do. not to go there, not to do that, not to touch that, not to go to that person, not to marry that bloody woman.
It can be the opposite too. It can be telling you to do this and
Yes.
do that too.
Yeah, and I remember an occasion being warned about things.
Go see the oracle. Go see a clairvoyant.
Yeah.
Or
No,
astrology.
I'm talking about things where I'd actually heard things near my ear and that kind of thing. I think I called it the whisper. I read a poem one time. I think we had it at one of our presentations, and we all gave a poem. Remember that? And I lost that poem, unfortunately. But I think I called it the fluttering, and it was about hearing this thing that near my ear whenever there was some kind of danger around. I didn't know it. That fluttering kind of made me attend to what was happening, and I was saved by that thing that awoke me to the danger. And that happened a few times in my earlier life. And so which one was that? Okay. So to some souls it would appear that there is no impetus or movement in their lives, but be assured they are planned with growth in mind. Spiritual laws are defined by God and apply to all living forms that have the gift of free will, and when these are not followed, the experiences will be repeated until you overcome them. So if you don't get it right the first life, you'll do it again and again and again. That is spiritual evolution, and your consciousness will not be lifted to higher levels until the lessons have been learnt. So your progress is not taken lightly and is carefully considered for each soul, and you are guided to experience that offers you the best opportunity to evolve. Although our lives are planned before birth, we may not stick to our life plan, and therefore our guides are here to remind us and help us make the best choices. So perhaps in a way that might be when people talk about their spirit guides or whatever, that's the concept behind it, that they're actually there to say, you're off the path, come on, move back to the left, back to the...
But it's not necessarily spirit to have there, it's some aspect of our own consciousness.
Yeah.
Pushing us or changing us.
That's right, and again, it's like the concept of what I was saying before about, hey, stupid, turn left, don't turn. So anyway, some souls may go through the same experience many times, but there is always something to be learned. Experiences are set up with souls that have all agreed to play out their respective roles. Someone has to take the part of the Dark Ones, and you have all acted on both sides. You are due to start a new journey that will take you back to Source. You'll be given the opportunity to lift up your sights and set them upon the most lighted expression you can achieve. After all, the object of working your way to ascension is to move into a state of enlightenment and continue to evolve. You will ever move onwards.
I always think that one of the reasons we don't remember past lives is because we find it hard to comprehend or digest things that we did in those lives.
Yeah. Or even your own death.
Yes, or your own death.
Yeah,
Yes.
the pain of your own death, if there was pain. I do recall a couple of instances in my own life where, my own previous lives, where I was shot in the head, and I remember seeing that as a convict here in Australia, which is a kind of bizarre thought considering that I don't have any connections to convict Australia. I'm first and third generation born Aussie, and I had this concept of running through a tall reed of I don't know what you call it, field of reeds, trying to get away from the redcoats and having escaped as a convict or something, and turning around, falling on the ground, turning around to find a rifle pointed at my head, and then boom, shot. I recall that as clearly as I see you before me now, and the shot, when it hit me, was so forceful, it knocked my, I was in my bed at the time, it knocked my bed about a foot towards the wall, and it actually hit the wall. So it was a pretty forceful hit. So if you were to remember that your deaths in their fullness, especially if they were violent deaths like that, I'm sure that you would either quickly go insane, or you would have harm to yourself because you would accidentally reenact that event, and you may in fact be killed by that. I mean, like, I was lucky when that incident occurred that it was, I was in my bed at the time, or sitting up, and the bed was actually about a foot and a half away, or a foot away from the wall, and when the force of that bullet hit me in the head, I went back and whack, hit the wall. It was an amazing event, and if you can imagine going through other experiences and you were in a less safe environment, you know, you could have done major harm to yourself.
Yeah, but it's all based on like how we like cope with like clairvoyance. Like if you're doing seances, they have like a veil of white light, they mention like a veil of white light to protect them from the things like I don't know how they go with the Dalai Lama, like because he's got a spiritual disposition of the former life with the different lamas, but like why is the incarnation of the Lama is in all of them, and there must be a spiritual thing. Makes it, but to any other person, it would drive them crazy. I guess that's probably why the whole thing of schizophrenia, like why people sometimes hear voices, and that all could be frontal lobe epilepsy. Like that's what my neurologist says what Joan of Arc had, where she had to see God.
And of course the difficulty with any of that, when you think of things like past lives and whatever else, is maybe they're just echoes of those past lives that you're hearing, and it's getting blamed on a mental illness that may not be there.
Well, the girl I used to know used to have a natural fear of fire, as if she was in a fire in a previous life and maybe died in a fire, but anything to do with fire was kind of brought right up in her. So sometimes these irrational fears that we have might have been from a past life.
Yeah, I mean that's that time that I referred to about being shot. Prior to that event, I had I can't explain the sensation, but if anyone ever pointed towards my head or between my two eyes like that, I had a pain that would go right there, and it would be very painful, extremely painful. And after that event, after recalling that actual death, I have never had that pain since. But like you could have, like someone pointed a pen at me or anything, or the finger or whatever, I'd always feel that pain. And ever since that event, never. So I assumed that it was kind of like a way of letting go of that pain. I don't know. Anyway, I'll just finish now. The vortex of reality is a complex whirling mass of cyclonically flung physical and non-physical materials shaped by socialisation, the hands of artisans, and by our individual constructs of reality. Further, our vortex of reality is the basis of the consciousness of our universe and thus the evolution of all things in it.
Very good.
I'd like to Thank you, Tony, for that. Would you be prepared to have a discussion?
Do it live.
Good. Well, why do we all have knowing looks? When you said about the maybe the aliens are us, and we all had knowing looks at each other. Now, what exactly do you mean by that? You got secret knowledge about that?
Well, no, just the if you've ever seen the images of the supposed aliens from,
Yeah, I've seen
like the ones with the little heads and the little bodies, the elfin-like arms and legs, and they've all been naked and they've got no external body, genitalia or whatever. And when you think of the evolutionary possibilities of a human being when they're in space, for example, long term, and if it's going to be travelling the universe, which would be lifetimes, it wouldn't be it'd be generational travel.
So you're saying they may be more evolved than us?
Well, that's how they would evolve. They would evolve to that point where maybe their brains would either enlarge or would encapsulate more of the non-communicative aspects of humanity, like telekinesis, all that kind of thing, telepathy, etc., etc. And also with the added radiations and all those kind of things of distant space, and if you're going through the Van Allen belt or anything like that, you're going to be in a lot of trouble if you don't have very
radiation.
Good radiation protection gear.
I don't know if you've seen that movie Prometheus. It's a good movie. But it tells about that, like they have a thing of you've heard of terraforming, but they have bioforming, like change the genetic structure for the environment.
Yeah, and that's something that perhaps would have to be done if humans were going to explore further into space, and if it meant, there may be a certain amount of human engineering involved in that that adventure, but at the same time there may also be a need for our DNA to change to suit those environments as well.
Because one of the things that's a problem once you go into space is gravity, because gravity keeps our body together.
Yeah.
And this is what the space astronauts have troubles with after they've been up there for a while.
Yeah.
The bones, etc.,
Yeah.
get stretched.
And that's what happened. If you remember particularly the Russian astronauts who spent like a couple of years in space, when they came back down to Earth, they had bone density loss, those type of things. And if you were to look at long-term travel, generational travel, unless you had artificial gravity, which is possible, not artificial gravity as in anti-grav, which is still highly speculative science fiction, but anti-gravitation.
It's still got a spin.
Yeah, a spinning craft that could create its own gravity. Unless you can do that, you will find that people will suffer from those loss of gravity effects. And then, of course, the other side of it is you have to make the spacecraft capable of being able to prevent things like the radiation entering the craft, and there's all kinds of radiation we still don't know anything about. Certainly we know about some of the major ones, but there are other ones out there that are far beyond our imaginings and which can do major damage to human tissue. Then you've got the stuff that, like some of the gamma rays will go straight through everything. That being the case, if it can go through everything, it can go through you. So if it can go through you, the chances are it may affect your DNA. If it affects your DNA, it may then start changing or making you change evolutionarily. So, yeah, the chances are you could get to the stage where you're genitalia is no longer in the outside of your body. It's
Yeah,
in
probably.
balls.
But it may be more to the, even though watching programs like Star Trek, that we have these romantic notions of travelling out there as human beings, maybe travel out into the solar system, into the galaxy, would not be done in physical forms,
No.
be done in consciousness.
That's why I say like what that concept of that reality is, like how we perceive things. But like as I saw that you mentioned about like Hitler, Mussolini, like all these figures. I guess like they make up like the events of like the history as a whole, like and our society, everything is based around that history. Like you can either see it as, because if you see it as neither good or evil, what they did is neither good or evil. Like I was going to mention, like as that divine plan, but they didn't mention God. God equals bad. But if you mention it's a bad, like the devil did it, then it mentioned like the devil did it. But if it was something that was meant to be, but like entropy, like you can see it in our lives, like people who die in our lives, like people who have something so liberating, something good, and then there's a test to test them. Like is there one of these like some kind of thing out there from a past life or like a higher power that's made that event to test out that person, like a whole big experiment
Suffering.
event. Yeah.
So you mentioned Hitler, you've got Pol Pot, you've got all these to make people suffer, so we should thank them because they're in the
but
divine
there's no-
plan. But does suffering refine us, or does it?
Yeah, but it's
Does
that's
that
how we.
part of the divine plan, suffering
Yeah, but suffering, like
and
it's.
dying at a young age?
Yeah, but it's
Well,
how
so
we
that's one of
perceive
the
suffering.
concepts- One of the concepts is that if you suffer, that helps you to gain, I wouldn't say brownie points, but it helps you kind of get that little further more advanced on the path of movement towards that God state,
Okay.
where that's why you might think, well, okay, that if you are in vitro and you're terminated before you come to life as a human, you've actually experienced what it was like to be terminated. That was part of your learning experience, that life, even as short as it was. It might have only been like a couple of months in vitro. It was your need to experience what that was going to be like. You have to keep in mind, if you believe that the whole idea is to experience the things that are a part of life, whether they be good or bad. Now, at the moment, there's some people having some damn good times experiencing things like how to be a rock star and all those kind of things, because they've obviously gone through all the bad stuff, and now it's their time to shine and have fun. I gather. I mean, why else would some of them be doing the things they're doing and having the fun that they're having and having the millions upon millions of dollars that they've got?
And dying early.
And dying early. Well, yeah.
But I found like
Well, it's a
That
classic
actually
test. I mean, those people you're talking about,
Yeah.
it's a classic test. Most of them don't make it.
Mm.
There's only a few. One of the great examples of the few who have made it up till now, and that's Beyonce. There's been no scandal, no nude photographs, no sex videos, no multiple boyfriends, because she stayed on the path. She knew what she was wanting to do. She had a moral fibre to herself, to her personal philosophy, and she stuck to the path. And she's a shining example of a rock star, pop star, whatever she is, who's actually made it.
That's what I thought at times that it's in this last century, it has been an interesting aspect of evolution that you have so many people who have become famous in an incredible, massive way. And I wondered
Usually a
about,
short period.
yes, and I wondered about the karmic consequences. I mean, you have someone like Presley, who is an iconic figure,
Mm.
had incredible sadness in his life, and
I thought you
certainly
were going to say hips then, Diane. I thought you were going to say hips.
no, fine. He went through a lot of terrible things in life, but he also went through some incredible things. And as a person, he actually was a very spiritual person. I remember Isolde's wonderful talk on him. But
even he didn't last the
he
distance.
didn't last the distance,
No.
and there was incredible pressure on him. And you look at a lot of the different stars, so-called stars that have shot to the top. Some of them shoot away again so quickly. Others seem to continue on. I mean, I still don't know how come Keith Richards is still alive.
No. But you're talking about the vortex, you see. You take Elvis Presley, there's a classic vortex. Swirling round, you know, and the pressure on him, as you said. And vortex sucks in,
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't spin out.
Leading to
Vortex is
early
very
heart attack.
in. Now, unless you have got your act together and have some philosophical foundation to you, you're going to collapse under that pressure, as Presley did. Who's that other singer? She died of an overdose recently.
Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston, same thing.
Well,
They just cannot sustain.
That one at Winehouse, what's that?
Oh,
Amy
Amy
Winehouse.
Winehouse. Yeah. She just went off the rails.
Yeah. And then what happened to our little Heath?
Heath Ledger.
Heath
Yeah,
Ledger?
but that's what I'd like to say, like, you can encapsulate, like, everything, like, all the emotions, like, with Whitney Houston, with a breakup, with all that emotions, and, like, if she just, like, had all those emotions there, but not to overdose, to know her limit, like, to feel that experience, feel that pain, but not do anything. That's why I say, like, one of these famous rock stars, because it's based in our, like, Western society as well, like our society versus like an Eastern society, how we view the concepts of his fame, of his celebrities.
And not just in the West, it's also in the East too. But
They have.
it's just the fact that I think, to me, in this last century, compared to other periods, every period of history has its own keynote. And one of the keynotes of this last century is this rise, not just to fame, but the fact that as a result, so many people's mental thoughts and emotions are focused on that person. And that's something we never had in the previous times. You might have had it for the king or for the conqueror or whatever. There might have been certain thought
You mean a star or other people?
Well,
A rock star, a movie star, or
movie
something?
star, celebrity.
Yeah,
It's all celebrity
It's
now.
celebrity, I know,
It's all-
Yes, I mean, even politicians now have much greater psychological pressure on them than what,
Or hatred.
or hatred, yes. And half the
yeah.
time it's not even deserved. You know, the media fire up every little thing that the politicians say. And sometimes they take it completely out of context. Other times, they may be, we all make stupid statements. And I get fed up with the fact that some of these, I mean, like these two young swimmers this week that had their photos taken with guns. It's something that they all do over when they're over in America. Probably the only stupid thing they did was put on Facebook. They should know better than to do that. But the media jump up and make a big thing of something that was a silly...
But again, mind you, it was Nick Darcy.
Oh, I mean,
He
love to
should
hate
be-
Darcy.
Oh,
don't
Darcy, was it?
they? Yeah.
Yeah. So he should perhaps still be in Australia.
But it's like kind of like there's like things around us, like if one of them died, there's cry. Like one thing I found, like on the good side of things, like national like pride, like how many people seen like down the Queen's Diamond Anniversary, like the concert there, and like how proud it is to be apart from England, or the whole thing of monarchists versus Republicans.
Yes.
Yeah, but like
the emotions that were whipped up during this last week that focused on that.
Well, I think it's probably more to do with the dour gloom in England.
I think it has been a counterpoint to that.
And
It's what Britain needed, was to lift itself up and have all this celebration, and it created jobs, it created sort of a sense of pride in what they are.
but it also is one stable point on which you can focus,
Yes.
like a rock.
Yes.
So that's a good reason not to get rid of
Yes.
your rocks.
Rocks, yes.
But then
Rather
again-
than have them.
But then again, also too, if you think back to Japan, Emperor Hirohito was the rock of Japan, and he, although supposed to be a god, didn't advise his people not to go to war, did he? And he seemed to almost be.
No, that's right.
You
He
know,
seemed
so-
to be. In fact, he should have been. He should have been hung after the war. They let him off. He should have been hung as a war criminal. He could have stopped the whole thing, but he didn't want to.
Well, that's what I was
He
trying to
got
say.
enwrapped in his own, I presume, in his own glory to be the, the
But
emperor of
he was-
Asia.
Which is where a lot of the monarchies over the centuries have got
Their bloodlust.
that bloodlust, yes.
But wasn't he based on like an ancient code, like the code of Bushido, like the whole culture of Japan back then?
Yes, I mean, it was a focus for that whole culture. And it just sort of came to a head where they just thought that what they were doing was the right thing without any concept of the reality.
That's what Tony was getting
of
at.
the people.
He said the reality is, the indoctrination is what he said. You make your own reality. Society gives your own reality.
Well, I
So
don't
that
think
the-
that's
the-
right, actually.
The kamikaze people that were told they were right to go and do kamikaze and kill themselves in their planes, and their reality was created by the times around them. Like we wouldn't go doing kamikaze things, but in those days they did.
In the Middle Ages, the knights went off to the Crusades because they were told that if they went and fought for God, and they would
To die for God.
die for God, they would get
They
all
probably get
their
some virgins as well.
yeah, but they would get all their sins wiped out, etc.
That's right.
So
But
we caring
what-
about them today,
That's good, yeah.
Isn't there just one reality, though?
Yeah, my reality.
There is
No,
perhaps,
no.
there is probably one truth, one real
It's based
truth,
on the victors.
but because we are all individuals, we all have our own realities, which aren't
Well, no, we just have our own beliefs and
Our own
perceptions.
their own
Perspectives.
version of that one reality.
But no, there's only one reality.
there. Have you ever sat down with people and written a report on the same subject that you all, or the same thing that you all observed or all saw, and how different they all are together? You might have, if 10 people had to write a report about an event that occurred, you'll see that there's always something different in every one of them. You know, one person might say the person had a green shirt on, one says he's got a red, so there might be just colour blindness. Someone else says something else about them. The other one says, well, there was a car crashed into the kid, and the kid, there was no car there, it was a push bike, and you get all
But
these...
it sort of comes back to what Peter's saying. It's only one reality. We've just got different versions because we see different parts of that one reality.
But I think reality.
It's very enlightening though when you look at your own prejudices. When I was being brought up, women driving cars. Women aren't as good as men. Men are more practical. Women shouldn't drive cars. And when I used to be on shift work and drive past and see the women coming out to collect their mail in their dressing gown, and I thought, gee whiz, these women must be lazy, coming out in their dressing gown to do that. And I was prejudiced against them. I was prejudiced against lady drivers. And I can list quite a few other things that I was prejudiced against. So when we understand our realities and look at our prejudices, then it's an enlightening thing. I can see my prejudices because I thought about them.
Can I say?
That's one of the good things about going a bit older is that you can look back and
See what your
patterns of
prejudices.
why you think the way you do is because of certain events in your life or certain ideas that people have fed you with, or that you've come up with yourself.
And things you've gone past. I've gone
Yes.
past that thing. Lady drive. lady drivers are better than men drivers.
Except
Yeah.
my ex.
But that's what I find like. But that's what I find like we can change that.
I can tell you she's one person who had no road sense whatsoever, and she knew it.
Mm-hmm.
She knew it.
But that's what I find like we can change our own reality.
That's to do with personality.
But that's what I find we can change our own reality. Like if we change our reality by changing the way we live, if we change our reality by what we eat, like that's what I find. Being a vegetarian, like there's little subtle things I'm more aware of myself being a minority all the time, so I'm more aware of that. So my reality has changed. It's dichotomically changed from one thing to another thing. Like we can change our reality, and our things happen around it. Like good things, they have a good thing. Like they have the whole law of like we've heard of karma, but they have a thing of let none be harmed. Like if we don't hurt the environment, if we don't hurt other animals, other people, if we become more pacifist, then some higher power will help us. Like it's a whole thing. It's an ancient belief of why they used to worship gods, the pagan gods. Why they worship the earth.
One of the research papers I looked at with regards to vortexes talked about the vibrational vortexes, which were to do with choosing your own reality and imagining it in that vibrational vortex, and then it was true then in that vibrational vortex, you could then make it true, or it would manifest as truth eventually. That's what, it sounds very similar to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, there is a thing, evolution, maybe Brendan's getting more spiritually evolved than me. Does do no harm to animals, and here am I eating meat. I brought this up once before. And I think you said you shouldn't have a guilty...
No.
I had a guilty conscience because I'm still a meat eater.
No, it's got...
And you said that I don't have to have a
You
guilty
don't have to,
conscience.
because not eating meat is a personal choice.
But
some
imagine
of us
that
choose
dear
for
animal, that
different
dear animal
reasons.
died for me.
But Hitler was supposed to have been a vegetarian, so that doesn't mean to say being a vegetarian
Makes
makes
you
you
a
more
good person.
spiritual. Yeah,
Oh, right.
right? A lot of people who are more spiritual can be vegetarians,
Mm-hmm.
but it's...
Well, you have to be in the long run, because I am inflicting pain on the animals.
Well,
that
in a
are
sense,
dying.
that there is a thing that as
Are you?
you evolve...
Yes, because they die for me.
Are you personally doing it?
I am, because I'm not stopping it.
Well, if I were to, if I had, I know for example, if I had to kill the animal to eat it, I would be a vegetarian overnight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know that, because I can't kill an animal. I know I contribute to its death, but I'm not responsible for that death.
Mm-hmm.
And I know my grandfather used to be a butcher in the old Czechoslovakia, and I think it's also true of some of the older Aboriginal type cultures around the world, where if they killed the animal, they had to drink some of its blood as a mark of respect to the animal.
Or they do a blessing.
As a blessing to the animal, whatever. Where they take the blood and said, I drink this blood to the life of this animal, and thank the animal for allowing me to take its life. Now, that might sound like garbage, but...
Annie Besant wrote an article I've got somewhere about the law of sacrifice, I think it's called. And it is this concept that everything sacrifices itself for the next process. I mean, one can say, I'm not going to eat animals and because I don't want to kill them. But then you're eating the vegetables, and vegetables are still alive.
Yeah.
And they're actually now discovering more and more about plants.
And they are alive when you eat, when you kill them.
Yes, there was something I was watching the RT, they were showing that they had a couple of plants, and they had this experiment where they showed that if you damage that one plant, they actually could see chemical reaction coming off the plant and warning the other plant and that plant then reacted with
So
the
it's
same
a gas
thing.
given off.
Yeah, it's a gas, yes. So there's more and more showing that each life form has its own level and its own point of sacrifice for the next process. You know, it said that human beings eventually would become breatharians, where we actually take in the energy. But that is so far.
And that may be when we start to look like aliens.
Yes.
Because we don't have those external organs.
Yes.
I think
Or internal organs.
I think we've been right round now. We've gone right around the big circle. We're back to aliens, and do we want to have a cup of coffee?
They should too, don't forget in the animal kingdom you have the top predators, they're eating and killing all. So just because you consume meat or something, you're just standing in the same place as all the top predators are in the animal kingdom. So
And don't forget that that evolutionary process here, where the alien finally eats the human at the end, us being the food. So
Well, I was thinking
I think the big problem in the current world situation with the killing of animals is the way in which they're killed.
yeah.
You know, if you had tribal people out hunting, they had a way of stalking and killing that was fairly clean and I mean, it all hurts, but I mean, it was limited. But nowadays, the animals, the whole process of taking them from the farms through the trucks and the slaughterhouses, it's a long, drawn-out death, and there's a lot of
Anxiety
that goes with
And
it.
so what I didn't like too is that like that animal also sees the animal being killed in front of them or whatever, so they know what's happening or know what's coming for them. I mean,
Yes.
they're going to see exactly the same thing. But also too, when you look at
the Haro butcher, the way of life of slitting their throat, they're different to us. That's their religion, to kill it that way. And we say, oh, that's very cruel to kill an animal that way.
no, that's their belief. To kill
It's a
it that
belief,
way.
yeah. Yeah, that's right.
They make a big
So
thing
the
about
beliefs are
halal,
easy
but it's
change.
also the same in Judaism.
Yeah.
Kosher killing is the same
But
process.
we can't understand
Yeah,
it.
it's that kind of thing. Like with animals that do it, like people like it's get it off that carnivore instincts. But one thing like I was just thinking of we have all perceptions of reality, but we want to find out what is the truth of reality. Like would that truth drive us crazy, or can we handle that truth of that reality? Like if we find out the answer to reality, like we can extrapolate from all the data, hypothesize what reality is, but we want to know the answer to reality. That's one thing.
You ever see the movie Galaxy Quest?
Oh yeah.
In that show, the aliens, the real aliens, were able to mask their real look.
That's right, yes.
With, I don't know, some kind of technology or whether it was just, I don't know, with their minds, I don't know. But they actually made themselves look like humans, although they made themselves look like very dorky humans. They were actually things with tentacles and all that kind of thing. And they were able to make themselves look like humans. Again, with the same kind of concept behind it, isn't it? So,
Well, we must remember after this we've got a little letter to have a look at. That we can't discuss it. We haven't got a quorum, but there's a letter that I'd like to present to have a look at later. So we want to get a cup of coffee and warm our hands
Yeah,
up.
let's get a couple. Thanks for that.
thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Dave.